Hey, it's your old pal Steven, aka Old Head, coming at you with the first in a new series of videos where I talk about some albums that have been released over the years that I feel should have been way more successful than they were. And this series is entitled
Should Have Been Huge!
So, today on Should Have Been Huge, we're going to be talking about an album released in 1994 by a heavy alternative rock band from Boston, Massachusetts called Orangutang. An orangutan with a G at the end of it. Now, while the band did release an EP called The Rewards of Cruelty in 1993, this album from 1994 is their only album and the last release that they would ever put out. And the album is called Dead Sailor Acid Blues. So, just to start it off, the reason why I'm talking about this album is because I feel when I listen to this album from beginning to end, I don't understand why it wasn't more popular, first off, or if it wasn't popular back then, I don't understand why this is not an album that a lot of people talk about today. But let's break it down a little bit. So it is a heavy alternative album, heavier in some spots and lighter in other spots. It's interesting because it has indie rock roots, but it's also got pop sensibilities, and it's got some fucking riffs on it, like metal influenced riffs. I know that probably around this time that was a dirty word, but there's some heavy shit on this album. Honestly, when it comes to 90s rock music, I feel like this album has it all. Like everything that should have made this album successful. Now, maybe in 1994, maybe it was a year or two too late, but around that time, Smashing Pumpkins were still having success. And I think out of any band I can think of right at the top of my head, Smashing Pumpkins would be the closest comparison to this. So, once again, it should have been huge, but it wasn't. But I think maybe when I listen to it and I think about what was going on in 1994, I think probably the problem may have been that it was too heavy for the alternative folk and it was not heavy enough for the metal folk. It was perfect for dudes like me. This album hits right in my fucking sweet spot.
We have the house of the woody cat.
mean, it hits all the right marks. A couple songs have mid-sections that remind me of Helmet. And then a couple songs later, there's a jangly, Beatlesque pop song. And maybe that's part of the problem. There was a music video released for the song Bigger Chunk and the song Daddy Raw, which are heavier songs, and then Shiny Like Gold also had a video. So I don't know, maybe in 94 people just weren't ready for that kind of variety, or they were tired of that kind of variety. Who the fuck knows? All I know is that this is an album that takes you on a journey the way any good album should. And on top of that, just, I'm talking about the different styles of songs, but beyond that, there is just really good songwriting here, really good performances, great production. It is the entire package, folks. So unfortunately, at this point, there's not a lot of information out there on the internet explaining what happened. So all it is speculation. So, it could be the fact that they were marketed as an alternative band, and maybe they should have been marketed towards a heavier crowd. Maybe it was also that around that time there were tons of one-word named bands that were just popping up all over the place, a lot of which had like one or two really strong songs, and the rest of the album was just kind of whatever. And unfortunately, maybe people assumed that Orangutang was going to be the same kind of shit, which it is not. At any rate, from what I know, by the time 1994 was over, Orangutang was also over. And I scoured the internet, folks. I can't find any explanation as to what happened. I don't know if the band maybe was just done, and maybe there was some artistic differences and they went their separate ways. It could have been that the album was poorly promoted and didn't do very well. I mean, the label that they were on, Imago, while they're an indie label, they were kind of a more prominent indie label, but by the end of 1994, I think that label was also no more. They had gone under. So maybe it was a case of them being unable to find another home after they put out this. I imagine putting all this work into an album like this. Like, that's what I hear when I hear Dead Sailor Acid Blues. I hear like so much work went into this, songwriting and performances and recording. And if I was in this band when this came out, I would have been like, we're going places with this fucking shit. And they should have. But I don't even fucking know if they were able to tour at all for this album. From the information I've seen, this album came out and then, there might be crickets. Maybe I couldn't find cricket sound effects. Anyway, so that was it for Orangutang. And then the only other thing that I could find on the internet was in 2014, the band reunited for one show, and there's footage of that on YouTube, but that is it. I do know that the vocalist / guitarist and the drummer did a stint with the Blue Man Group, but the rest of the band, I'm not really sure if they continued playing or if they were in bands. Maybe they were just really small. But it's another one of those interesting stories of a band that seemed like they could go places and then they went no place. But we still have one kick-ass album that they made that honestly shows the promise of them being able to do a lot more awesome shit. And unfortunately, we didn't get to hear that. But I would highly recommend, if you're into that heavier alternative side of things from the early to mid 90s, Orangutang is right up your alley. I can't stress enough how much I listen to this album and I think to myself, this is too good for people to not be hearing. Now, on top of that, as far as I know, it's not available to listen to on Apple Music or Spotify or whatever. Maybe it is, but I know it's not on Apple Music. You'll find songs here on YouTube. You'll have to dig a little bit to find it. I'll just go, since this is, the Old Head channel, I have the vinyl, which there was only one pressing made back in 94, and it's a European pressing of this. I guess we'll look at it. There's an insert. There's nothing on one side, lyrics on the other side. It's pretty bare bones. And then the record itself is just the basic Imago label. And apparently they were a label that didn't really treat their artists fairly or appropriately. I haven't looked that much into it. I just know that there's a lot of stories about Imago. So unfortunately, Orangutang is one of those bands that fell victim to Imago. So get out there, folks, and find Dead Sailor Acid Blues by Orangutang. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's a fucking great album that should have been huge. Also, if anyone out there knows any of the dudes that were in Orangutang, or if any of the Orangutang dudes happen to watch this video, go ahead and put a little comment down below. Let us know what happened. Or you can email me at oldheadpodcast@gmail.com. And honestly, I'd like to talk to any of you dudes, because if you put out an album like this, I guess I just want the story to be wrapped up. Like, what happened? So anyway, Dead Sailor Acid Blues, Orangutang, killer album, and an album that
should have been huge.
Thanks for watching, everyone. You're all beautiful. I'll see you again very soon.